everybody. I am here today with Caitlyn. We are going to chat a little bit about equine nutrition, which she has some particular experience with. So, Caitlyn, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, and thanks for having me. I'm Caitlyn Eickleberry, and I currently own and run Roaming Sea Equine LLC, which provides training, nutrition consulting online, nationwide, and massages. So,
I love that. Yeah. So, when we were chatting beforehand, you had mentioned that you are a firm believer in forage based diets. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you came to that conclusion?
yeah, for sure. So, I definitely think horses are happiest and most stimulated when they are able to recreate their natural behaviors, such as eating forage. And this also helps their digestive tract keep moving, avoid ulcers, and things like that. So, a good, well rounded forage based diet is not always seen in the performance world. And with my experience in that, I would see some horses just be cinchy, just be aggravated, just be upset about their stomach being touched all the time, and they're being fed supplements on supplements with pounds of grain and a few flakes of alfalfa. And I just had never experienced that really with my horses that were on a very like a high density forage based diet. I decided to kind of look more into that and then have determined that yeah, forage based diets is kind of the best way to go. Definitely supplement with some grain. I'm not anti grain at all, but that should not be the basis of your diet, and your horse will appreciate it and be a lot more happier.
Yeah. And I know when we had talked before, you had mentioned that this was something that was prevalent in your formal education too, but then when you initially got into the professional world, it was more discouraged.
Yeah, definitely in my education, I got my bachelor's from Kansas State and my master's from North Carolina State. We discuss a lot of the benefits of forage, the benefits of keeping that digestive system moving. And then when you kind of get out into the real world, it's supplements, supplements will fix this, this will fix this. And that's just more grain and more concentrates and is an endless cycle that could simply be fixed with a little bit of grass.
Yeah. So if somebody is starting their journey into more of a forage based diet, which I think is becoming more popular, like from what I've seen, people are starting to understand that that's where we should be headed. Where would you recommend that they start as far as changing their horse's food over, places that they can go for education, stuff like that?
So I mean, I think the first place to start, of course, is always educating yourself before you just go out doing stuff to your horses. We don't want anyone to colic, right? So we don't want to just switch things over in immediately. We want our horses to slowly transition their diets. We want to provide them with different hays and different grains, or taking away grains slowly so that we don't just shock their digestive tract essentially and have them colic. So educate yourself first. There are a lot of resources online from different colleges that have just simple infographics on their extension web pages. Like OSU, for example, in my area, has a lot of different infographics on just digestion of really all animals. If you have horses, if you have cattle, if you have sheep, they should all be eating different things, right? So educate yourself on that, and then I would recommend going to your local feed store, hay store, wherever you get, your feed, and asking them what their hay levels are like. Like the ask them for what their hay levels tested at, so you can kind of know what forage is actually in your area. Because that's all regional, that's all different. Each feed store is going to be different. So educating yourself on the basis of everything that you are doing to your horse is going to be the first step to a good all around forage based diet.
One of the things that I have heard in contention of a forage based diet is, oh, I have this thoroughbred and I can't keep any weight on him. How is he going to stay healthy on a forage based diet? So, what is your experience with those more hot blooded horses?
I agree, it can be hard to keep weight on those horses. And again, I'm not opposed to grain, but that should not be your staple for adding weight. That can be a good way to add fat. You can add some oils in there with your grain, get them some extra fat and things like that. But a majority of calories and weight gain you can get from alfalfa, honestly. Very high in calories. There's some other types of hay that's also fairly calorie dense and rich that you can provide. And giving a lot of that forage constantly is going to do a lot more than feeding 10 pounds of grain twice a day. So they're going to be able to constantly take in those nutrients throughout the day and use them as building blocks instead of just getting a spike in nutrition and then it being excreted or giving them ulcers, stomach aches, etc. from a bunch of grain, which can in
What
turn make them lose even more weight. So you want to give them more grain to put on the weight, but then you're giving them ulcers, you're giving them other stomach problems, and it's kind of undoing what you want. So if you can give them those calories through forage, you're going to avoid those stomach problems, which is undoing what you want to do.
So you mentioned alfalfa, and another thing that I hear people complain about is alfalfa is going to make my horse hot. He's already hot. I don't want to give my horse alfalfa.
Yeah, so that is something I hear all the time too. It's like anything, there's moderation. If you experience your horse getting hot off alfalfa, it may be the first time your horse has had adequate nutrition. It may be the first time your horse has experienced meeting all of its digestible energy requirements and different alfalfa provides all types of vitamins and things like that. So just if your horse has been lacking any of that and then now those requirements are getting met, they're going to feel great. They're going to be happy, they're going to feel a lot better, and it might make them quote unquote hot, but I think they're just experiencing for the first time what it's like to if you eat candy all the time and you just have a bad diet and then all of a sudden you go and you eat fruits and vegetables and things, you're going to have some energy, you're going to feel a lot better. And that's just kind of what these horses experience at first. But it's alfalfa is mainly protein. What is going to make your horse hot is going to be sugars, fats, things that are quickly digested, spike that glucose level and give them that energy. This alfalfa is going to be digested a lot more slowly throughout the day. It's going to be taken in a lot more slowly. You're not going to have an energy spike from this like if you ate a candy bar, like if they ate grain. That's where you're getting your energy spikes. And that if you add alfalfa and take away your grain a little bit, you can still have a well-rounded diet and your horse may not get as hot because the grain is actually what's making them hot instead of the additional alfalfa.
Yeah. And it's interesting to think about too, because when you look at equine evolution and the way that their digestive systems work, they're designed to eat those like really woody, fibrous plants that other animals can't digest, because that was how they were able to like maintain their competitive edge. So it makes sense that now when we're trying to feed them these like very nutrient dense grains and stuff like that, that it's not working right because it's not working with the way that they've evolved to digest food.
Yes, exactly. And horses, they're they're creatures of, I don't know how to word it, just constant. If you can just provide consistency with them, that's the best thing. Just consistently providing them with hay rather than here's some hay in the morning, here's some hay at the night, here's some grain, spiking all their levels, giving them ulcers, things like that. If you can just consistently mimic how they were on forage 24 hours a day in the wild, that's just gonna help their digestive tract keep moving and avoid so many problems. Because
Yeah.
those horses in the wild, would die with these problems that our horses today have. They would not make it. If we can mimic how those horses in the wild were able to survive and avoid these problems, then our own horses can avoid these problems too.
Well, another thing kind of tangentially related that I think is interesting is a lot of people talk about how good Mustangs' feet are. And I've heard a lot of people talk about the hoof health benefits of forage-based diets. And I'm wondering what your experience is with that too.
I've had horses, with good and bad feet. I think genetics also play a role in that, but definitely, you know, Mustangs have great feet, and a lot of the horses I see out here, in the pasture. I'm out in the Midwest. A lot of these horses are just out in pasture for a while, and then they get pulled in, time to go to work, and you work for a season and you go back out to pasture. When you pull these horses in that have just been out on these pastures, they don't got feet problems. They're not lame. They don't have laminitis. They don't have, any of these problems that we see a lot in these performance horses. And I think that's due to both the forage based and just the fact we let them acclimate and get hardy. We let them be a horse, and that, just like you let a kid play in dirt, they get a little immunity to them. You let the horse be a horse, they're gonna get a little bit stronger and not be so dainty. Whereas, yeah, some of these performance horses have never stepped on a rock in their life, and they are on a lot of concentrates. They're foundering, they're laminitis, whatever, and it could be solved with some better diet management and just overall, husbandry, just kind of letting your horse get out, walk. No hoof, no horse, and you gotta help them from the inside out. So forage base will definitely help with that, and can help with some of that laminitis and stuff too.
And we're talking a lot about like these are things you can do with your horse. Here's how it could help. What is your nutrition regimen for your horses? Like, what do you personally do?
So honestly, what I do is not what I would dream to do, right? If I had I'm still young. I'm only 25. I'm just starting this business. I have to rent a property, and I do my best. And that's basically what every horse owner has to do, right? So, I mean, ideally, my horses would be out on a beautiful pasture 24/7. And if they were in performance training, I'd provide them some alfalfa, and then maybe just like a ration balancer with a little bit of fat, keep them shiny, keep them looking good to show. And it helps lubricate their joints and things like that as well, having some fat. But my horses are currently on a dry lot, and I provide them with a round bale. And it is so stinking windy out here. All your hay will blow away if you do not put a net on it. So we have a round bale and like a slow feeder net type of thing. And that also helps, just keep them kind of slowly, consistently munching as well. But if you don't have a net, it's not a big deal. But I do recommend them. It helps with waste and things as well. If your horses have shoes, though, don't have nets, because if the net gets on the ground and your horse's shoe gets in the net, it's no good. Don't do that. But anyway, so my horses are on a dry lot with a round bale and get alfalfa twice a day. But between the two feedings, they don't run out of alfalfa, but overnight they will. So they have alfalfa about consistently throughout the day. And my horses are coming 2-year-old performance horses. So they haven't started. Well, one of them has started being rode. He's a 2 coming 3-year-old. He's in training with me. So these are young performance horses. So they get alfalfa kind of throughout the day. I let them clean it up overnight, and it goes by weight. So really, you want to know, you don't need an exact weight on your horse, but you want to have a relative estimate. And then you want them to have at least 2% of their body weight in dry matter. And so if I have to assume a lot, with a round bale and things like that. If I assume they are eating this much of the round bale per day, then I can give them this much alfalfa per day. And again, each horse is going to be different. I try to keep my alfalfa and my hay at like a 50-50% ratio. I don't want to give them 100% alfalfa just because I simply can't afford that. And it is a lot of protein. And I don't stall my horses, but if you stall them, there can be a lot of smell in that urine if they have just so much protein going in. I'd recommend, a 50-50 balance of alfalfa and some type of grass hay. And then since these guys are young and growing, I give them some grain to balance them out, help with their phosphorus ratio and calcium ratio for like bone development and things like that. So definitely forage based, and I want to have them munching on alfalfa a lot, but I don't want that to be solely their whole diet, their whole ration be alfalfa.
Definitely. That makes sense. If you were to have somebody come to you, like a new client come to you and be like, hey, I want to work with you to help my horse's nutrition, where do you start with them? Like, what does the first month look like?
So the first step is ultimately, what are your goals? Like, are you trying to save money? Or is your horse suffering from colic and ulcers? Or does your horse have a dull coat? Like, what problems are you experiencing that you're wanting to fix? Or are you just wanting your horse to just are you just wanting to make sure overall you're doing things right? Right. So kind of start with that. And then of course your horse's age, breed, is she pregnant, is it a boy, is it a girl, is it intact, etc. Because all those play a part. So once we kind of evaluate that, I'll evaluate the current diet. What are you, because that's where we have to start. We don't want to just, okay, this is your horse's age, breed, and weight, you need to feed it Purina when they've been feeding it Tractor Supply, whatever. We can't just switch overnight like that. So I need to take in account that you've been feeding grain from Tractor Supply. How do we gradually switch this to a better grain or a better forage base? Like, how do we wean off of this, etc.? And so we start with evaluating what diet you're currently on, and then what your goals are, and what steps we need to take to alter your diet kind of slowly to reach those goals ultimately. So if you're wanting your horse to be shiny for show season and its joints feel better and things like that, then we can look at your fat content. If you're wanting to bulk up on some protein or bulk up some muscle and put on some weight, we'll look at protein requirements and things like that. So that's kind of where we would start, and then take steps to see if those changes are getting the results that you want as well.
Do you have a client story, or do you have a client that you've worked with that you have like a particular success story or something like that that you would be willing to share, or a challenging one that you were just like, this is hard?
Well, honestly, my biggest success would probably be my personal one with the Mustang I got out of the kill pen. That was just, she looked brown, she was bones and terrible and disgusting, and felt so bad for her. And I did not plan to get her, one of those things. Brought her home, fed her, took care of her, loved her a little bit. Within a month, that horse was black as night. That horse was, her mane and tail grew. She had a gorgeous coat. Like, people didn't even recognize her. And I'm like, just because she wasn't getting fed, she was a Mustang, she survived. And that time her feet never got bad, nothing like that. She just, you could tell she just looked rough, like she was surviving. And then once you provided her with the things to thrive, I couldn't even recognize her. I wouldn't have been able to pull her out the field if I hadn't seen her, And so that to me was just amazing. And then sharing that with people, they were like, wow, like, you can't really judge a book by its cover type of thing. And I'm like, no, you can't judge these poor horses in this state, because you never know really like what is under there when you provide them with what they need. Now that Mustang is off with a lady, just she's wicked, she's awesome, she's so cool. I love to see it. I love to see the videos of her and stuff. So
That's amazing. That must feel so good to have been able to like bring her through that.
yeah, it is great. And I think that's probably my best success story, because luckily the clients I work with haven't had a horse that has to come from such a poor condition. You know, their horses are in decent condition already. They're just wanting to make them feel better or have less ulcers. And of course I love accomplishing things like that, but seeing the complete change in that Mustang was amazing. And if anyone's interested, I have it posted on my Facebook page, you know, where you can see in just a couple months, less than a couple months, just a whole different horse.
I love that so much. Well, I think that we're starting to wrap up here, but is there anything that we haven't touched on that you feel like is important to talk about?
One of the things I do want to talk about is no matter what hay you're feeding or alfalfa or whatever, just make sure it's good quality. Around here, again, I'm in the Midwest, kind of south Midwest in Oklahoma. We have blister beetles. So you don't want to get alfalfa from around here. You want to get it from like Colorado or something. So there's different, you know, there's regional differences. And again, reaching out to just being knowledgeable and reaching out to your extension people or whoever, even your local hay distributor, just kind of picking their brain a little bit, asking where this alfalfa come from, things like that, and know the regional kind of differences. Like, I would not recommend getting alfalfa for horses from Oklahoma. There's other things that can eat alfalfa with blister beetles. Like, it's fine. They can sell it. It's not that big of a deal. But for horses, no. And also, when you're just buying regular hay, you know, don't get stuff that's moldy. Like, again, people can sell that because cows can eat it, goats can eat it, whatever. Ruminants can handle mold and dust and things, unlike horses. So just make sure that whatever you're feeding, alfalfa, Timothy Orchard, Bermuda, just make sure it's as least dusty as possible. I mean, all hay is kind of dusty and there's no mold. So,
Yeah, mold is definitely one of the things I feel like in the Northeast that we got to look out for because we do not get as dry. So sometimes there's some moisture in there and it's gross.
for sure. And that's like I said, like the regional differences. Like, I don't think people in Arizona really struggle with mold, you know, but they got to watch for beetles and scorpions and things like that. So
Yeah, I don't even know what a blister beetle is, actually.
it's really just a type of beetle. There's nothing that special about it, except if your horse eats it, it will blister their insides and kill them. So
Great.
it's deadly. So definitely check your hay for them. They come in different colors, but if there's any beetles in your alfalfa, take it back. Tell them. I mean, make sure that someone knows that what they're selling has beetles in it, because that's going to kill a horse. So
God, that's so scary. They're so good at dying.
how they are. But if you can provide them a lot of clean grass hay, you know, should be pretty good.
Well, Caitlin, I've had such a great time chatting with you. If other people want to follow you on your endeavors or want to work with you, where can they find you?
So right now I have just Facebook, Roaming Sea Equine, and TikTok, Roaming Sea Equine, where I post some training videos and stuff. And then on my Facebook, I post kind of like more like nutrition blogs and things, like more like seasonal. So like, it's winter, we have this winter storm coming, make sure you feed a lot of hay, here's why you should feed hay, etc. So if you're interested in the nutrition aspect, definitely like and follow on Facebook. And if you like the videos of training and things like that, that's kind of what I post more on TikTok.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This was so much fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thanks for sharing knowledge with people.
That's the goal. All right. We will talk to y'all later. Thank you for joining us this week at the Horse Girl Gazetteer. You can find us online at Horse Girl Gazetteer on Facebook or Instagram and Horse Girl Gazette on TikTok and Patreon. You can also email us questions or comments at horsegirlgazetteer@gmail.com. If you find yourself enjoying our content, please leave us a review and share the link with your friends to help others find their way here. Any and all support is greatly appreciated. Talk to you later.